Across the country, a dark mystery circulates township communities. Its victims, children.
His 10-year-old daughter passed away.
In October last year, at least 8 children died in the Free State and Gauteng after eating snacks bought from local spaza shops.
The community, of course, concerned so much about the children that are living here.
Communities took to the streets, looting the foreign-owned spaza shops that they blamed for the deaths of their children. Local municipalities responded with raids on spaza shops, targeting expired and fake foods and undocumented foreign nationals. But by December, municipalities shifted focus and the children's deaths don't appear to have been properly investigated. Then, this year, more children died in Gauteng. In April, a young boy became violently ill and passed away in Vosloorus. 6 months later, 6 children lost their lives in Naledi, Soweto. Government took notice.
The results show that the cause of death is unequivocally terbufos. All the 6 children died of terbufos ingestion.
But could these deaths have been prevented?
Bathandayo abantu othi noba wenza ntoni na like mna ndandithanda uba nejoke naye yayingumuntu onjalo like nasebusuku uba siyathandaza ndandikhunjuzwa nguye mama lixesha lothandaza eli bengalali singakhange sithandaze.
𝗀𝗵𝗶𝗃𝗃 and her daughter Nomazandile live in Motherwell, Gqeberha in the East Cape. For 3 years, they've been mourning the sudden deaths of Nomazandile's 2 daughters and her niece. In November 2021, Nomazizi returned home from running an errand. 11-year-old Sinothando was cooking 2-minute noodles, bought at the local spaza shop for herself and her cousins.
Athi lo Sinothando unesusu ndithi owayithixo wam sikhawuleze anya xa sesifika apha endlini naye umntana iyagwebhuza amagwebu.
As they rushed Sinothando to the hospital, the other 2 children fell ill as well. One of them was just a baby.
Uyaphela lo mntana. Ndithi kusista wam, oh hayi andinamandla ngoku ndiphelelwa ngamandla.
2 hours later, all 3 children were dead.
Nditsho mntasika ndizikhange ndibe rayithi tu because into ndandiyithetha ndisithi qophetha.
Weeks later, investigators established that the highly poisonous agricultural pesticide terbufos was responsible for the children's deaths, but the manufacturers of the noodles were cleared of any wrongdoing.
It might be used by somebody who wants to murder somebody. It happens very often.
Toxicologist Dr. 𝗀𝗵𝗶𝗀 runs the Griffin Poison Center and works for CropLife, an organization which represents pesticide manufacturers. He assisted with the investigation into these 3 children's deaths and says terbufos is all too common in these cases. What's terbufos, Dr. 𝗀𝗵𝗶𝗀?
It's a granular organophosphate which is used for things like potatoes and maize to control nematodes and to control beetles and wireworms.
Terbufos is a pesticide that can only legally be used in agriculture. But Dr. 𝗀𝗏𝗀 says criminal syndicates often steal it from farms and sell it in smaller quantities in low-income areas, where it's a popular and quick solution to rat infestation. And from there, whether by accident or intent, it makes its way into popular foods.
Those foodstuffs are sold in exceptionally unhygienic shops. No control between what is foodstuff, what is the clothing, and what are the pesticides. It's all one big 𝗀𝗏𝗃𝗃 spool, and there's a very good chance of contamination. Now we've got a national crisis.
But terbufos is not the only hazardous pesticide readily available in these low-income communities. Naledi, Soweto, 𝗀𝗵𝗶𝗴𝗶 knows all too well how deadly the banned chemical Aldicarb can be. Last year, his grandson, 𝗀𝗁𝗁𝗍𝗍 collapsed on the street, minutes after eating snacks from a nearby spaza shop.
So he was laying here?
Yeah, from here. And the two sisters were with him here, trying to resurrect him.
Leon later died, and 𝗀𝗵𝗶𝗴𝗶 stated that the autopsy identified Aldicarb, a banned pesticide known as 𝗀𝗵𝗶𝗶𝗵𝗶, meaning you will not see the sunset, as the cause. It's a popular rat poison. 𝗀𝗵𝗶𝗴𝗶 says police still have not provided the official toxicology report.
That's why I'm saying that this case is so cold. It's like we have buried that dog. Let it be.
I'm sure you're away, but you never want to be here.
But I have to pass here every time. To pass here, I will have to. But I've got no choice. I want to May try, however. You will see this place.
In October, our producers went undercover in Soweto in search of poison sold on the street.
Yeah. Okay.
In the Kliptown and Dobsonville taxi ranks, the problem became clear. Several street vendors had what looked like rat poison on display, unmarked, and with no warning labels.
Who's talking peasant? North. North, yeah. I come to know specifically. Yeah, we north.
Our producers bought some samples of the rat poison sold and sent them to a lab for testing.
I can tell you in the last 2 to 3 years, with all my walkabouts in my area, which is Carte and Kariga, and even going to places in Pretoria and going into East London and so on, I have not seen a street vendor selling illegal pesticide. Never.
In his study, 𝗀𝗏𝗀 shows me some samples of highly poisonous pesticides sold on the street.
So safety first, if you can wear a pair of surgical gloves.
Right, see?
Aldicarb, which has been completely banned in South Africa since 2016, is one of the deadliest, but it's still readily available from street vendors.
This is a little sachet with about 20 packets of nearly 5 grams each of Aldicarb, but to sell for 20 rand. That's sufficient to kill 200 men in half an hour if you put it into their food.
So who is supplying these illegal pesticides to these street vendors? Our team followed a lead to a well-known mall in Johannesburg. It's notorious for the sale of pesticides.
No, we don't sell them back. No, you're not going to get it. Even I know the supplier, but I won't see it. You know the feds.
The lead went cold.
It has been banned in Europe since 2014.
According to Anna Shevel from non-profit organization Unpoison, legal regulated pesticides like terbufos are more accessible than banned ones. Unpoison is advocating for a complete ban on terbufos in South Africa.
In recent studies, terbufos is the main culprit for pesticide poisoning in the townships. Why are we legally using one of the most acutely toxic pesticides on our food?
She says our legislation is not in line with global standards designed to keep the public safe.
There's a lot of vagueness and loopholes and inconsistencies in the current regulations that need to be addressed.
The Department of Agriculture oversees the manufacture and distribution of pesticides. They have an inspectorate tasked with enforcement of pesticide laws, but it lacks manpower.
I believe there is only one compliance officer in the whole of the Western Cape, and I think that there are only a handful nationally. This is woefully inadequate.
But after the latest series of deaths, the department unleashed 80 health inspectors on Soweto this October to identify the chemical that had killed 6 children in Naledi. A week later, we visited the area to see if hazardous chemicals were still on sale.
Yeah. Ikuphi lapha? Unayo i-𝗏𝗏𝗏? Ayikho. Ayisekho or out of stock? Iphelile. Just found someone who's underage, and he says they've actually run out of stock. And his mother, who is the trader, will be restocking this coming Friday.
Anyone selling pesticides requires a license from the Department of Health. These traders should be regularly inspected, but for decades, they've been left unchecked. Remember the poison we sent off to get tested? Well, the results are in, and it's reason for concern. 3 of the 4 samples tested positive for terbufos. The police say the 𝗀𝗏𝗏𝗃 investigation is still underway. The Department of Agriculture passed the buck, saying that all queries related to the poisoning of children have been centralized with the Department of Health. The Department of Health said none of its officials were willing to take part in an interview. But for the grieving families, serious questions remain.